Hello, chums. The Switch 2 has unfortunately brought a lot of cynicism and just a weird vibe going into the new generation. And because of that, and I mean, it's not exclusive to the Switch 2, I feel like this kind of applies to some stuff during the Switch generation as well. Just tonally, Nintendo content and like Nintendo discussions have kind of changed because of that. And a big pillar of this sort of tonal shift is Mario Kart World. And of course, before I even properly begin, a lot of the criticisms against Switch 2 and Mario Kart World are very justified. But what I'm more interested in tackling here is... This video is very unscripted, by the way, if that wasn't clear. What I'm more interested in tackling here is, as the title would suggest, a kind of a lack of nuance in discussions about Mario Kart World specifically, but also other things. I mean, like Metroid Prime 4 is a game that I've kind of seen more firsthand, where people like cannot accept that there are good parts of that game. And I think the same can apply in some ways to Mario Kart World, with how some of the content kind of makes it seem like it's just this objectively bad video game experience, which it's not. And like, believe me, I believe in being critical of games or just anything that you care about, because I think being critical of something does mean that you care about it. But what I'm kind of talking about here is the subsection of Nintendo content that has been a lot more prevalent recently, which is just the stuff that is saying that something is outright shit. Because Mario Kart World, especially when it came out, like, if you were an outsider looking in, you would think this would be like a genuinely horrible video game experience that like killed someone's mom. Because obviously the Switch 2 was a big time for Nintendo content, because, you know, the end of the Switch era was kind of like a fizzle out. There was content, obviously, but it was sparse compared to obviously the beginning of the generation, as it naturally goes. So there was just an explosion of videos, and in that were obviously a lot of discussions about Mario Kart World. And of course, a lot of those videos were positive. There's obviously an exception to this, but I remember a significant portion of my recommended around that time, in that like June, July, August period, that were just videos saying that Mario Kart World is bad and here's why, or why you shouldn't like Mario Kart World. Any way you can spin that title is a video that I saw with a sad Mario in the thumbnail. And this just like kept going. Even as recently as December, the Game Awards, when Mario Kart World won the best like racing / sports game in the Game Awards, you know, the thing that nobody actually cares about until it proves a point that they have, and then they'll point it and be like, hey, look at the Game Awards. Yeah, when it beat out Sonic Racing Cross Worlds in that category, like, you would think that they hit the towers. And like, I'm kind of going all over the place, but Sonic Racing Cross Worlds also got dragged into this for some reason. And I haven't actually played Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, so I won't talk too much on it specifically because I can't. But I have played Sonic racing games in the past, and like, the comparison has existed before where people are like, oh, Sonic Racing is just worse Mario Kart. But I think Sonic Racing does enough in its own way to where like a comparison between the two is just weak. I don't like, on what metric other than the fact that they're both racing games are we comparing them? I'm pretty sure I'll correct it if I'm wrong, but I think IGN, again, talking like Game Awards and IGN, the two things that nobody should give a fuck about. IGN rated Mario Kart World an 8, I think, and then Sonic Racing Cross Worlds a 9, which just added so much fuel to the fire, and it was just helping the narrative of like, oh, IGN said it was better, which means it is, and I'm right and you're wrong. And I mean, this can span into a bigger discussion about the modern internet in general, and how people always have to argue about something, and how their viewpoint always has to be right, and how the other viewpoint always has to be entirely wrong, because they're right and that's what's important. So this almost entirely useless comparison was being drawn between two games that really didn't have much business being compared at all. But yeah, all of this was kind of just factoring into this like bandwagon against Mario Kart World that obviously it went off of YouTube. I feel like it kind of exists everywhere in any space where Nintendo fans are talking about whatever, but I did notice it predominantly on YouTube. And I have very similarly noticed the same with Metroid Prime 4. I won't talk about it much in this video because it's by Mario Kart World, where most of the videos are just like blindly saying that it's bad and only focusing on the negative aspects. And obviously, if it's in a critical way where you're looking at both sides, I think that makes sense. but this isn't really what's happening here. Going back to Mario Kart World, I feel like a lot of the discussion and how it's being presented is just trying to be negative, and it kind of just stands in the face of an actual debate or argument where it's just pointing fingers and saying, hey, I'm better for thinking this, you're wrong for thinking this. Like, I was seeing stuff genuinely probably like 2 months after that game came out that was like, Mario Kart World is dead. No, it is not. Like, I personally think the game is a little light content-wise. I think it has like just enough to be, well, let me be clear. It has just enough if it was a normally priced game, which it's not. So obviously wanting more content makes sense. But people are still enjoying this game. Like, believe it or not, this is a Mario Kart game. But like, more generally, I think that a lot of this content kind of just carries a more like a mean-spirited kind of energy, and just being like mean about a thing because that gets more views than not being mean about a thing. And I can't remember specifically what Topic Arlo video it was, but I was watching a Topic Arlo video where he was talking about this sort of thing, which kind of made me want to make this video in the first place. He essentially just called it grifting, and how that's just a thing you can do. You can just make Nintendo content where you're grifting, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, you kind of don't have to care about any of this at all. You don't have to like genuinely give a shit anymore, do you? And I'm so mad at this because I can't remember where I actually saw it. It could have, dear God, it could have been on anything. It might have been in a YouTube video. It might have been like a comment or like something on Blue Sky that was talking about something that I hadn't even thought of that kind of relates to this, where the vibe surrounding Nintendo content changed when the Switch was a success compared to the Wii U being a failure, because it brought up the fact that the people who were there during the Wii U era, since it wasn't a general audience, it was pretty much only people that really cared. The content that was made during that timeline was by people who cared. It kind of just like felt more like, I don't know, like tightly knit. Like you were seeing like the same people talking about like stuff that they genuinely cared about, and it kind of just had a more nicer feel. Obviously, there were probably videos like the stuff I'm talking about today back then as well. There's obviously exceptions and stuff, but it felt a lot different then than it does now. But now that the Switch is more like broadly appealing, and the Switch 2 as well, you kind of get people who, and obviously you still have a lot of people who do care about this stuff, but it definitely feels a lot less like a discussion about having like, hey, this is my opinion, I'm gonna share it, what's yours? It feels a lot more like, this is my opinion, this will not change, this is right. And I think a lot of it is definitely banking off the fact that right now, generally, people do not feel that great about Nintendo. And because the people who are more in the know about this kind of thing are all feeling more negative content is just more likely to do better and resonate with more people. And I mean, even outside of this context, people are always more likely to watch something that's negative than positive. It's just kind of how it works. And I think especially moving forward, it's a little bit scary in a way where you don't even need to fully have like an opposing opinion. You could just be like, hey, yeah, there's stuff about this game that's bad, but there's also this stuff that's good. And the only takeaway from that will be, well, you're wrong because there's stuff about this that you like when it's something that is bad. And like, obviously everyone is allowed to have their own opinions and express their opinions in their own way, but whenever you start getting aggressive about other people and what they think, and just assuming that you're right all the time, is kind of like a dangerous idea that I think is very prevalent nowadays. A lot of content nowadays is designed to make you not think too hard, just by design, and I think that could be reflected in how some of these videos are just like very one-sided and like not really caring about anything that opposes them at all. Like, yes, Mario Kart World has its problems, it has flaws, and some people will just dislike the game more than other Mario Kart games because it tries to do something different. That's just how that works. But also, to entirely ignore the amount of positives that this game has is just ignoring such a massive part of the picture, to the point where it can feel like you're talking about entirely different things. Mario Kart World is like a really weird game to talk about because like, it's very obvious that they're holding a lot of content for DLC, which is annoying. Quite frankly, it's really annoying. But even as of right now, in this state that the game is in currently, I think to call it just flat out bad is such an exaggeration. And I'm someone who feels, well, I generally feel quite positive about Mario Kart World, but like, I recognize that it needs more content and that the intermission track system is very divisive, and I'm not even someone who particularly likes it that much, especially with how online it's quite enforced, because Nintendo really wants you to play with the animation tracks, which just design-wise aren't that interesting compared to the normal tracks. But I still think the game is overall a good game. Like, this game is not perfect, and there are definitely a lot of people that will never be able to fully appreciate it or are just not interested in it because it's such a different Mario Kart experience. But I mean, like, kind of my general takeaway for the video is just like, I really wish content was a little bit more varied. I like Mario Kart World, and I can't wait to see more content for it over the years. They're probably going to update it for quite a long time, considering how Mario Kart 8 worked. Although they've apparently stopped making the Mario Kart World bundle with the Switch 2 for some reason, but that's a whole can of worms. I just think the kind of hate train around this game is very exhausting, and I very purposefully wanted to wait before talking about it. I have another Mario Kart World video that I want to make, and I kind of wanted to wait until now, because yeah, people probably won't care as much, but also that's a good thing. As I was talking about, people are very quick to discard an opinion that's a little bit different than theirs, and that's just kind of the internet. But like, you know, not much use complaining about that. It kind of just is what it is. But thank you for watching. If you watch me talk about Mario Kart World, I've kind of just been enjoying talking about video game stuff more. I've been kind of trying to do more new stuff with the channel in terms of content. So if you've been watching, thank you. It's very appreciated. And yeah, like, maybe some people watching this video will hopefully feel the same way I do about content and stuff like this. If this maybe resonates with people, that's cool. I just kind of hope that the discussions about this game and more games in the future are a little bit better.